And staying with Donald Trump, the president-elect has vowed to hit China, Mexico, and Canada with new tariffs on day one of his presidency in January. Donald Trump says that the taxes will be imposed to force these countries to crack down on illegal immigration and drug trafficking in the United States. In a social media post, the incoming commander-in-chief said that he will charge Mexico and Canada with a 25% tariff on all products, a move that appears to violate the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. Meanwhile, an extra 10% tariff will be levied on China until Beijing stops the flow of illicit drugs, especially fentanyl, into the United States. During his presidential campaign, Donald Trump promised to impose 60 to 100% tariffs on Chinese goods and a tax of up to 20% on all U.S. trading partners.
We have tremendous economic power. And by the way, if we're not careful, we're not going to have that for long either. That's going to go down the tubes with everything else. But if China or some other country is behaving badly, we have things called tariffs that are so severe.
Donald Trump's threat drew swift responses from both Canada and China. The Canadian Deputy Prime Minister said Ottawa and Washington have one of the strongest and closest relationships when it comes to trade and border security. Meanwhile, Chinese diplomats reiterated that no one would win a trade war between the two sides.
The U.S. policy on trade with China, with other countries as well, will have impact. And that is really an important element that we have to consider. I think the first thing most for us to do perhaps is to continue the good relation and momentum between our two countries and see what we can do together to promote for global trade instead of compromising our respective national interest and our common interest. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Mexico's lower house leader said an escalating trade retaliation would only hurt the public's pockets and won't solve the underlying problems. Germany's economic minister also responded to the president-elect's threat, saying Europe will ensure that its trade relations are in fact secure.
All I know are Donald Trump's statements during his election campaign, and I therefore do not want to speculate how things will proceed. At the same time, last night's decision could be an indication that he is very serious. First, the EU must respond united to this and not tear itself apart into 2 or 3 blocks of countries, but speak as a united Europe.
Donald Trump's tariff announcement also reverberated throughout global markets, with the Canadian dollar, the Mexican peso, and the Chinese yuan, British pound, and the euro dropping against the U.S. dollar. Notably, China, Mexico, and Canada are America's 3 biggest trade partners. In fact, last year, the 3 countries together purchased over $1 trillion worth of exports and provided nearly $1.5 trillion worth of goods and services to the United States. Economists say imposing hefty tariffs on the 3 nations would cost the average American household an additional $2,600 per year. And with Donald Trump's history of using taxes as leverage in negotiations, expect a roller coaster ride on pricing of various goods and services over the next 4 years.